This is breaking news.
From French teen idol to Canadian crime fighter, Joséphine Jobert's North American leap. Joséphine Jobert stars in the new CBC series, Saint-Pierre, a crime drama where she plays Genevieve Archambault, nicknamed Arch, as a cop from Paris who becomes deputy chief on the French island of Saint-Pierre, just off the Newfoundland coast. Jobert might be a new face to Canadian viewers, especially when compared to veterans like co-star Allan Hawco. But for French millennials, she's already next-level famous. While Paris-born Jobert spent her teenage years in Montreal, she moved back to France at age 20, where she was cast in the popular teen series Saint-X, Années Pension, and Foudre. French teen drama queen. CBC's Sylla grew up in France and spent her summers glued to these addictive teen series and obsessing over the characters and soapy storylines. Among a sprawling cast of young actors, Jobert was often the only black character. For Sylla, who is French-Senegalese, that representation meant the world, and she became a die-hard fan. When she heard that Jobert was coming to CBC's Toronto headquarters, she could not wait to meet her childhood idol. Meet her. Why don't you interview her? We asked. Watch the sweet interview above, and read on for the written highlights of that conversation, edited and shortened for clarity. Amy. Little Amy is screaming inside right now and in complete disbelief. I never thought that I would have the opportunity one day to interview one of my biggest teenage crushes. For teenagers, watching them was more than a pastime. It was actually a ritual every summer, and my parents knew better than to interrupt me when I was watching. I would dissect every single episode with my friends afterward at the beach, or even in September, back at school. What was it like to be part of shows that were so loved and even iconic for a generation? Joséphine. To be honest, I had no idea it was this iconic until quite a few years ago. We were so young, like I was 20 years old, and I was just kind of starting in this industry. I'm 39 years old, so it was 19 years ago. People still talk to me about this show. Young people, older people. I think it's crazy. For me it's like, is this real? Because, I'm just doing my job, and I don't really always think about the impact you can have on people. I'm just enjoying what I do. I'll never forget, I had a message from a fan and she said, I just lost my father. And just watching the show every single morning helped me grieving because it was just like half an hour where I didn't have to think about the pain of losing my father. This is why you're doing it. 20 years ago, you wouldn't see a lot of black actors on screen playing normal characters, where the fact that they were black or mixed race wasn't the topic of the story. It was just like normal people having normal feelings and going through difficult times, just as a human being. Amy. Your roles tackled so many topics that teenagers were experiencing, but often were too uncomfortable or too afraid to talk about. Your character Amel, Années Pension, was a black Muslim teenager who wanted to become an artist. You never saw that on French TV. She was a character with so much grace, navigating how she wanted to show up in a friendship, in a relationship, while still being able to bring in that culture and her upbringing. It was so rare. Joséphine, I'm really proud of it. It means a lot. At the time, I had no idea. Being Amel or Alice was just being a character who was in love, who had dreams. But today, when I think about it, I'm like, wow. Now I realize that it was huge, and I'm so proud of it. Amy. I would love to talk about the transition, because you had an impressive career in France, and then you decided to take that leap and that bold move to transition to an English-speaking project. There are not a lot of French-speaking people who would take that risk. Joséphine. When I got my first job for British series, Death in Paradise, I couldn't even believe it. The thing is, I auditioned a few years before for a guest part. I had a callback, but my English wasn't that good at the time, and the callback was not good. Years later, I got to audition for the main character, Detective. And in between the two auditions, I took an English workshop. And the teacher was so good, like a door opened in my brain, I was like, "Oh, this is what it's like to act in English." And I kept on working on my English. I still make mistakes, of course. Amy. I think that is really beautiful, because this is something that can differentiate you a lot from other actors. The fact that you are able to navigate so many different environments and adapt so quickly, while being inclusive as well.